Hey everyone. So, what if I told you that deep down, we don't actually want the truth? I know it sounds completely wrong, but there's a ton of data, especially from how we act online, that suggests we have this artificial preference for comfortable lies. Let's dig into what all this data is starting to show us about ourselves.
So let's just start with a really direct question for you. Do you really want the truth? Like all the time, no matter what? It feels like the answer should be an obvious yes, right? But our actions, well, they often tell a completely different story.
And this is where it gets fascinating. When you analyze millions of our digital footprints, the articles we click on, the videos we watch, the stuff we argue about in the comments, a really clear pattern emerges. Turns out we're not exactly the truth seekers we think we are. We're comfort seekers. Now that's a huge claim, so let's break it down.
And that brings us to our first big idea here, the honesty paradox. This is all about that massive gap between what we say we value, honesty, and what we actually choose when the going gets tough.
This is the paradox, right here. Publicly, we're all champions of the truth. We demand it from everyone, our friends, our politicians, the news. But privately, when that truth makes us uncomfortable or threatens us, our behavior just shifts. We almost always take the easier path, the one that leads to comfort.
Okay, so why? Why do we do this? That's what we're going to dive into next, the psychology behind why we prefer lies. We're going to look at the deep-seated reasons that push us toward a cozy falsehood instead of a hard truth.
This slide really just lays out that internal tug-of-war perfectly. We say, just give it to me straight, give me the honest truth. But our actions, what we actually click on and share, they show this massive preference for ideas that just make us feel less anxious. For example, the data shows that headlines promising a simple, comforting answer to a super complex problem will get way more clicks than a headline that admits things are messy and nuanced.
And when you dig into the why, it really seems to boil down to two core drivers. First, there's our fundamental need to reduce anxiety. We're just wired to seek shelter from things that stress us out. But the second one, this one might be even more powerful. It's the need to protect our identity, to shield our very sense of self from information that feels like an attack.
So let's be super clear on what an identity threat is. It's that feeling you get when you come across a fact or an idea that just fundamentally shakes up who you believe you are or what your team stands for. It creates this really deep, uncomfortable feeling inside. And honestly, it's often way easier to just reject the new information than it is to rebuild your whole identity around it.
And this isn't just a battle we fight inside our own heads. Oh no, it's actually reinforced by the world around us. Which brings us to our next section, confidence over accuracy.
This is such a critical piece of the puzzle. Our preference for comfort isn't just some private, individual quirk. It's a behavior we actively encourage and reward in other people. It literally shapes our entire society. So, how do we do that?
Well, just think about how this plays out all the time. On one side, you've got the confident speaker. We see them and think, now there's a strong leader. And on the other side, you've got the accurate speaker, the one who might say, well, it's complicated, or admit they're not 100% sure, and we see them as hesitant, weak, unsure. So what happens? We trust and promote the confident one, even if they're wrong, while the person who's actually trying to be accurate gets sidelined.
And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? Our social systems, from boardrooms to elections, are basically set up to reward the appearance of being right over the messy, complicated reality of actually being right. Certainty just feels safe, it feels comfortable, and so we reward it. Okay, so let's bring it all home in our final section, the uncomfortable truth. We're going to pull all these pieces together and look at the self-reinforcing loop we get caught in and what it all really means for us. So here's how the cycle works, step by step. First, we're faced with an uncomfortable truth. Second, that truth triggers anxiety or it feels like a threat to who we are. So third, to make that bad feeling go away, we choose a more comforting lie instead. And then, and this is the absolute key, we turn around and we socially reward other people for doing the exact same thing, which creates this powerful loop that's incredibly hard to break. And online, this whole cycle gets put on rocket fuel. See, comforting lies and really controversial ideas, they create a ton of debate, people arguing, sharing, getting angry. And algorithms, they don't care about what's true. They only care about engagement. So they see all that activity and they boost the content, making the whole cycle spin faster and faster.
So after looking at all of this, the psychology, the social rewards, the way algorithms pour gas on the fire, The question really comes back to us, to you. How does this show up in your own life? Are you even aware of your own tendency to pick comfort over truth?
And that's the thought I really want to leave you with today. If you had to make a clear choice with real stakes, would you pick a truth that hurts, a truth that causes you anxiety or makes you question who you are? Or would you pick the lie that helps you and maybe the people around you feel safe and comfortable? The data suggests what most of us would do, but at the end of the day, the choice is still yours.